What is up, everybody? Welcome to Aces Up Podcast, episode 22. I'm your host, Joe Carlton, and tonight I will be highlighting another NFFC high-stakes player, somebody I drafted with live the past 2 years in New York in the what I call NFFC, the hard way draft, the $350 online championship. That's like the hardest online championship there is in the NFFC. And then after we learn a little bit about Peter Calicchio, his fantasy background and a little bit about his person, we'll bring on Joey Brown, frequent guest, and we'll discuss current news, some of the trades, and we'll talk about how to manage our NFFC high stakes teams. Or any team really from weeks 10 to the playoffs and throughout the playoffs. So as always, grab yourself a cold beverage. Get comfortable, and enjoy the show. There it is, the famous intro. You didn't get to hear it last week because I missed last week because I had to start a new job and orientation went too late. And yeah, we didn't get an Aces Up show. But tonight, we're back at it. We got Peter Calicchio from New York. How you doing, Pete?
Hello, Joe. Thanks for having me, Joe.
No problem, man. It's a mission of mine to highlight as many NFFC players as I can. I think it's the best platform. We're all great dudes. We have a good time when we get together in New York and draft. And yeah, we're going to talk football. We're going to learn from each other and have a good time. So let's jump right into it. Before we get into fantasy football talk, we're going to learn a little bit about you and your fantasy football background. So why don't we start with where you're from, where you live. You can talk about family. Anything you want to share with us, what you do for work, anything you want to share with us.
I live in Queens, New York, and Jamaica with my wife. I'm married. No kids, so I have a lot of time to do research for fantasy football. And I work for Verizon. I'm a technician, so my job is pretty important for having platforms like this, providing internet, 5G, and, I see people sometimes, I'll get a call out on a Sunday and people are panicking because they're like, oh, I got to watch my games, the football's on and my internet's out, and I'm like, I know, and listen, I understand, man. I said, I love the game of football, so I'm going to do everything that I can to get your service up before the game starts. So, so I take a lot of pride in that. God is good. And, happy to be here, and happy, healthy, and just trying to win my first NFFC title.
Nice. That's a good feeling when it happens. So yeah, keep up the hard work, man. It'll come. What do you do for hobbies outside of fantasy football? I know I see you in there with the lifting the weights on X and stuff.
It's funny you mentioned the weights because the older I get, it's getting harder to get there. It's getting harder to go to the gym, and I'm working out around kids that are 20 years old, 30 years old. I'm 52, and I'm like, this kid came up to me. He's like, I don't think you train hard enough. And I said, why you say something like that? He said, because you never asked me for a spot. And I said, well, I don't exit for a spot because I don't train like that no more. I know my limitations. I'm just happy to be here. Um, so that's how I look at it now. But yeah, I would say that's a hobby. It's something I still need to do to feel normal. But it would call it that too. Um, Another hobby, and I think I've been more outward, but more vocal about it lately, is I like to sing. So I like to have fun singing. I sung to my wife on our wedding. I've done karaoke. I'm a member of a church, and I tried out for the choir. I didn't make it because the choir is real intense at my church. They've won Grammys and stuff. So it's something I really enjoy doing. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I enjoy singing, cooking, but yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so let's find out when you started playing fantasy football, how long you've been playing. Tell us about your first league and how you got invited into it.
Well, my first league, it was it feels like 100 years ago. My starting running back was Tim Biaka Batuka. That's how long we're going back here. In 1999, I was working at Verizon, and a friend of mine in my group came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, I'm in this fantasy league, and we need another team. It's kind of last minute." He's like, "Do you want to do it?" And I've always had a passion for football. I played it in high school. I have close friends that love the game, and just conversation always about football and stuff. So I always had a passion for the game, and I'm like, I've heard of the fantasy football, but I wasn't sure what it was all about. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So me and this other guy who were partners, and I didn't know what I was walking into, and we walk into the backyard, and there was like 20 people back there. It was a 14 team league, and I'm like, this is crazy. I didn't know what to. So I just brought a magazine back there, and I just put my team together. And it was like the most. I was almost like nervous. I was like shaking. And I was like, this is like I don't know what the heck was going on. I didn't. I had all these people around me, and they knew what they were doing, and I had no clue what I was doing. But I knew I had to put this team together. So like I said, I'm drafting guys like Tim Biaka Batuka, Rich Gannon, Ricky Dudley. I still remember the team. This is 1999. Ed McCaffrey. Um, I think I had the guy Sharp also on Denver. Forget his first name.
Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, no, right. And it was the wide receiver. Oh, Rod Smith. I'm sorry.
Rod Smith. Yeah, that was a nice little pairing to have.
Yes, I had Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey. I put this team together, and this was such a long time ago. This commissioner, he had a separate landline for the league, so you would have to call. There was no like CBS Sports line. There was no NFL. There was no. So we had to call this landline to put our lineups in. So and then back then there was no Thursday night game, so we had to call it in like Saturday night, whatever, and say, "Here's my lineup," and you go down and you leave it on the machine. I got Rich
Yeah.
Gannon, Tim, and that's it. You hang up. You don't talk to him. You don't leave. That's it. You say your starting lineup and you hang up. So that's how long ago. But I just fell in love with this. I was always a numbers guy. I always loved playing with numbers. Like I took accounting classes in college. When I was a kid, I had baseball cards. I used to circle the stats on the back of the cards, and I ruined the value of the card. But I was always fascinated with numbers. I'm like, all right, this guy hit the most home runs. This guy had the most RBIs. This guy, So
Yeah.
it just like all was like, wow, I love this. And how that season ended, we missed the playoffs by one game because my partner didn't call in the lineup the week he was supposed to call it in, and we had Rich Gannon and Jake Plummer, and one guy was on a bye, and we left them in because the lineup wasn't updated, and we missed the playoffs by one game. So I'm still not over that. So I was like, 100 years ago, and I followed my team. Like if I would have made the playoffs, and I would have actually made it to the finals, and I would have lost in the finals. And I'm like, wow, this is my first year playing this thing, and I almost made it to the finals. Like this is crazy. So I got hooked, and then I was in. Like this, and then I did it, and then like what happened was I left that league, and then a guy in my garage at Verizon started another league, and that's how we started that league. And that league is still going to this day. I stopped playing in it, but I played in it for like 20 years. I won like 4 or 5 times. I made the finals. And then I just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm ready to step up my game. I want to start playing against guys like Joe Carlton. I want to start, I want to start playing against guys that really know their stuff, and see if I'm really that good. And that's why, I got involved with the NFFC.
No, you're definitely right there, man, because a lot of the stuff you just talked about, very similar. Same with me. I actually just mentioned it to my son last night because my son's a car guy. And he's 6 years old, and the kid knows every type of car brand there is, what the friggin' logos look like, how if it has all wheel drive, whatever. And he's like, Dad, guess the car I'm thinking of, and I'm like, trying to think of a brand, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, you're a car guy. I was like, Dad collected baseball cards. I used to look at. I'm a stat guy. I look at the stats and stuff.
Right.
Same thing.
Interesting. Very interesting.
That's how it gets started. You get hooked on. You can talk about how many RBIs Benito Santiago had in 1987, but you know what I mean. Like just because you collected cards and you looked at the stats on the back. So I love that story. I love how because that's exactly how it begins, man. You get addicted to the stats. So that's good. So when did you start playing high stakes? When did you join the NFFC platform? How many?
I started like 4 years ago. So I did it for 4 years now. I still like haven't placed. I haven't finished second. The best I did was last year in the live league. I think I finished third. Um, and I guess I had injuries in that. I had to navigate around certain injuries, and now I'm doing 4 leagues this year, the 350 RotoWire online, and I'm second in one league. I feel like I'm figuring it out. Like it's like the first couple of years I did it. First year I did it, I was dead last. And it's funny because it's funny how it works because like last year Saquon Barkley was the guy. He was the MVP of fantasy almost. Maybe outside of him and Gibbs, like those two guys were the top two guys. And I had the first year I played, I took Barkley, when he was with the Giants, but Barkley didn't, he stunk. So it's like I just feel like I'm figuring it out. And, it's like the situation means a lot. The player could be very talented, but be in a terrible situation. And then he gets into a good situation, and all of a sudden he explodes. So I'm trying to be more of a forward thinker than ever because of the 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 competition in the NFFC. Like when I was in my hometown league, I don't think I had to think as hard because I was like, oh, I can find some free agents and. But in this format, it's much more intense. Like 20 rounds. There's not a lot of availability on the free agent wire. So it's almost like the team you draft is going to be the team you're stuck with. And maybe there'll be an injury or something, and you can find someone on the waiver wire. But it's yeah,
The, the
I'm getting. I feel like I'm getting like I need like another year or two maybe, and I'm gonna break through.
the key to the waiver wire is being a week ahead. You got to sniff the guys out a week ahead of time, so you don't have to get into a bidding war. The
I
blind
got
bidding is.
I got to give props to a guy. I scour the internet, always looking for information. And there's a guy that writes for the Athletic, and he has an article that is basically what you just said. It's like he tries to, you know, see the week ahead, so you don't have to be in that situation where you're bidding, $500 on a player where you could have got him for $2, or $5 or whatever. So yeah, that's so important in this format, without a doubt. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you've been to two live New York drafts now.
Correct. Yes. And what I
What?
love about the live New York drafts are because like we're old school, so we were brought up in that format. Like going, like I said, my first draft, I walked into someone's backyard, and there was 20 guys back there, and I didn't know who any of these guys were outside of the guy that brought me there. But that's how we all started. So like going to the live league, the live New York City draft, that you get that, that fix, to see, people, because like we're not, like anyone in their 20s, like all they know is online. Everything's internet, everything's on. But we grew up in an era like we actually had to talk to people. We didn't have technology. I used to, like I said, I called my lineup in. I used to go run to 7-Eleven and buy the newspapers to figure out my stats. I was like, all right, how did this guy? I'm writing all the stats down. So like, yeah, I like that the NFFC offers that. When we can get together, I can meet someone like you and the guy Mike Sandman. I met him at the draft and some other guys there, and you start to see more familiar faces. Like it's going back to the second year that I've done it. You see, like wow, and then you're in the midst of guys that have won the whole thing. You're hanging around guys that are really good players.
Hall of Famer. There's like 10 of them that were in that room this year.
Yeah, I was almost like I wouldn't say I'm too old to say like I'm starstruck or something. I don't feel like that anymore. But it was like it was like wow, these guys are. This is like the best of the best is in this room right now.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
You get to mix it up with the best players in the world. That's kind of how I see it. It's awesome. It's such a cool feeling. So one question I ask all my guests are: have you ever participated in the Scott Fish Bowl?
No, the Fish Bowl I have not tried yet. It's something I could be open to. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be that guy that plays like 60 leagues. Like
right.
I did 4 leagues this year with the RotoWire, and I almost feel like I was telling my wife this earlier. Like this is my max. Like I don't think I want to do more than 4 leagues. Like because like the first couple of weeks free agency is kind of intense because you're still like there could be some guys that weren't drafted that could be starters for the whole year. You don't know, so you really have to pay attention. So I think like if you're in 60 leagues or 50 leagues, I don't know how you can give the attention like to each league. Like it just seems like it's a lot, like so it's Scott Fish Bowl is something I'd consider, and if I did consider it, I maybe would take something one away from RotoWire, and do Scott Fish Bowl. I would consider it.
Nice. Yeah, it's the biggest charity fantasy football tournament there is. Yeah. It's great camaraderie if you happen to do a live one. Even if you don't, Scott does a great job with the scoring system and the format every year. Like this year, there's it's all flex and 2 super flex. So all flex. So it's 11 starting spots, 2 super flex spots. So you can start 2 quarterbacks, but you don't have to. You can go all 11 running backs. You can go all 11 wide receivers. You can do 1 quarterback and 10 running backs, however you figure it out. And it makes it fun. Like last year, it was 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and then the rest flex.
That's a wild format. Yes, that is.
Yeah, and then there's like 2.5 points per catch, 3.5 for tight ends. You get you get a 0.5 point for a carry. It's really cool. It makes it fun. It makes you think. I like different. It's a nice change from the grind of the high stakes standard PPR scoring. It makes you when that scoring system comes out, I spend a good 3-4 days trying to figure out how I can exploit it the best way possible and come up with a build. Especially with the all flex, man. People were like coming up with these crazy builds, that they think is going to be the best, and it just
changes the scoring system every year.
Scoring system changes every year, yeah.
So you can't really get an edge, like a true edge.
Yeah, no. I'm having a malfunction with my headphones here again. Hold on 1 second, guys. Are we good? Say something, Pete. I want to make sure I can hear you.
I hear you, Joe.
All right. Hello? Yeah, no, the audio is good. I just want to make sure I can hear you.
Okay.
I mean, the mic is good. All right, good. All right, so another question I ask is the Fantasy Football Expo. We talked backstage before we went on here. You is this something you might be interested in participating in the future at some point?
Actually, yeah, I would make another trip to Canton. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the trip there. I went. Like I said, my wife took me there for my 50th birthday, and we had a lot of fun. Um, so yeah, I spent 4 hours in that museum, in that Hall of Fame museum. We went in. We just like looked at everything, read everything. You know, I gave a thumbs down to Kyler Murray. I was like, oh, you stink. I was like, what's Kyler Murray doing in the Hall of Fame? And he had like certain rookie records in there. I'm like, all right, all right. But
Right? Yeah.
I was like confused for a minute. Like, why is this guy in the Hall of Fame? But yeah, no, it's something I would consider definitely. I would, especially as I'm getting closer to retirement. So
Nice.
I'll have
Yeah. Those
more free time. So
I went out for the first time this year. Had a blast. Participated in 2 live drafts. Just got to see everybody from the sports affiliation. Meet JC, guys that give me a chance to do the podcast. You know, you hang out on the live stream. You debate with these guys on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, and then you get to see them in person. Like I got to meet the 2 guys from ESPN, Michael Florio and what was the other one? I can't think of his. Why can't I think of his name? But you see these people that like.
I was gonna say Chris Berman, but that's
no. Chris Berman wasn't there. Why am I drawing a blank? But just sitting at the bar having a beer with these guys, like shooting the shit about whatever, anything. It's pretty cool.
yeah.
Everybody's approachable. No, what I mean. I met Josh Bowling in the chat. He's another NFFC guy. Josh and Dan, we do the we now do the Monday night reaction show together. We met at the Fantasy Football Expo. I was sitting there minding my own business, taking a break from the crowd on a picnic table, and they just came up to me and were like, "Hey, you do Aces Up, right?" And they were like, "We love your show." It's such a cool feeling. Yeah, and you build friendships, and it's just awesome. So I definitely had a good experience with it. But enough about the expo. We're gonna jump into your favorite NFL team.
Why you have to depress me like that?
So I've had quite a few Jets fans on so far. I'm interested to hear your side of being a Jets fan. How'd you become? I mean, obviously you're from New York, but why the Jets and not the Giants? Explain that.
Well, again, I'm 52, so I was born in 1973. So in 1983 was when I can honestly remember I started watching football like consistently. And in the early 80s, the Giants were actually not good. They were actually terrible. The Jets were the better team. Um, and I fell in love with the sack exchange. I fell in love with Joe Klecko, Mark Gastineau, and I just, they were just, Gastineau was so colorful, also talented, but just, I just that was the team. Like, I just said the Jets are the team. And I grew up in a baseball household. My dad wasn't a football guy. He was a baseball guy. So he was a Yankee fan. And so when I brought football into the house, my dad was like, "Well, if you're going to start watching football and I'm going to follow it, I'm going to go with the Giants because the Yankee fans stay with the Giant fans." So I said, "No, Dad, you don't understand. The Giants stink." I'm like, "The Jets are the way you got." He goes, "No, the Yankees stay with the Giants, the Jets stay with the Mets. That's how it works." So I said, but I said to him, "I'm not going to go to the Mets. I'll stay with the Yankees. I won't do that to you." So I stayed with the Yankees. At least I stayed with one New York team that won some championships because the Jets never won anything. But that's how it started. It was Klecko and Gastineau. Those are my 2 favorite players. And then a few years later, that's when the Giants brought in Bill Parcells, and then they drafted Lawrence Taylor, and they built a Super Bowl team. And I remember my dad had a Super Bowl party in the house in 1986 when the Giants won, and I had some friends over. We're all celebrating, and I remember saying to myself, if I become a Giant fan right now, I don't think anybody would care. Like maybe I should switch right now, but I didn't do it. I said I'm going to stay loyal. The Jets had a good year that year. They lost to the Browns double overtime in 1986. So I said I'm going to stick with the Jets, and I stayed with the Jets. I stayed loyal, and it's got me nothing pretty much. No championships, no nothing. But the Jets, they've had some moments, in their franchise. My most exciting moment as a Jet fan had to be when the Jets brought in Bill Parcells. Like I was, that to me was like, wow, like the Jets don't have people like this, and he changed the entire culture. He took a 1-15 team, won 9 games the next year, missed the playoffs by 1 game. The second year was 2 quarters away from a Super Bowl. And then they were the favorites the following year, and Vinny Testaverde blew out his Achilles. And that was the end. But that had to be the most exciting time for me as a Jet fan, without a doubt. When Parcells came here, the whole culture changed. There was respect. But it still wasn't enough. Just they couldn't get over that hump. And then we had a little moment there with Rex Ryan when he came. But overall, it's been a horrible experience being a Jet fan. Really, and the last 15 years have been really terrible. Like my wife and I've taken some close friends to the Jet. We've gone to Jet games, and it's just, why do I keep going back? It's like they disappoint you, and it's like, well, you want to stay loyal, you want to support your team, but when you make better decisions sitting on your couch, like you're watching things unfold, and you're saying, you're not playing Monday morning quarterback. You're saying, I want that player, and they don't do it. Like the most recent example I can give you is Sam Darnold. Having success now. He had to go through he had to go through a couple of teams to get back, get to where he is today. But when the Jets were trading Darnold, I felt he needed a legitimate weapon. So I said, why are they trading Darnold and taking another quarterback? It didn't make sense to me, because we didn't know anything about Zach Wilson. He was like, all right, well, he had a decent year during the COVID year. It was a weird season for, football. I'm like, they should just get him a weapon. I said the Jets should take Jamar Chase, keep Sam Darnold, and draft Jamar Chase. Get this guy a weapon. But instead, they traded him, and they drafted, Zach. So you're making better decisions than the people that are getting paid millions of dollars to make these decisions. So I made a joke a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. I said the Jets should have a reality TV show where they pick 2 fans, and one fan becomes the head coach, and the other fan becomes the GM, and they run the team for 3 years, and give them a shot, give them a chance, because they're going to do the last 15 years of what I've watched. They're going to do it they can't do any worse. That's the way I look at it. So give me a shot. Give someone from the NFFC a shot. To run this team. I think they'll do better than what they've been bringing in. So, I'm at the point now where, like, just today, there's been a lot of news. Your head's spinning a little bit. They're trading Sauce Gardner. They're trading Quinnen Williams. They're trying to build a new culture. So I respect that. Let's build a culture. Let's see what this new regime can do. But being a Jet fan has been, it's been pretty rough. It's a fruitless, and I see your Patriot banner in the back, and it's like, it's just, it only takes that one player. If you find that quarterback, you become competitive right away.
Yep.
So the Jets have not been able to do that. They can't find them.
Also, I know about the Bill Parcells factor too. We were 1-15, 1-15, 2-14, 1-15, 2-14, and then we got Bill Parcells, and we went 10-6 right away. Yeah. He drafted Drew Bledsoe, and 10-6 made the playoffs. And then new ownership came in with Bob Kraft, and then they, took a late round, late shot on Tom Brady, and he got his opportunity, and the rest is history. I mean, so, like you said, all it takes is that. We've seen it with Jackson Dott this year. He's working with shreds. Like, that team is like, on paper, one of the worst offenses, especially now without Scatterbo. And he's still making it work. They're not winning football. They're not going to win every football game yet, but you can just see it, like how he elevates the entire team. So
he's always pushing the ball down the field, like he's always moving that offense down the field. And you definitely see some talent there, without a doubt.
So you mentioned the trade. I'm going to bring it up now. We'll talk about. We'll get your thoughts on it. I personally think it was a great trade for the Jets. Nice haul.
Which one are you talking about? The
two first round picks and Adonai Mitchell for Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I love it. I love it as well. I like I said, being a Jet fan, I watch the games, and I'm not taking anything away from Sauce Gardner. His rookie year was a very, very good year. He had a great rookie year, but all I've seen was regression year to year over year. He's gotten worse, in my opinion. And to me, the lazy narrative is, well, they don't throw to his side. They don't. But when he has the opportunity to do something, he doesn't do it. And you don't want to. Like, interceptions are kind of a weird stat, but in my opinion, any decent corner is somewhat of a ball hawk. They pick off passes. That's not the ultimate stat. But like people would say about Darrelle Revis, like, oh, they didn't throw to Revis' side. They didn't throw. Revis' first 3 years with the Jets, he had 14 interceptions. 14. Gardner has 3 in 4 years. Okay, so. And there's something off about him. I think he's more concerned about his brand than, something's just not all there. I just think if a team calls you and says, hey, man, I'm going to give you 2 first-round picks, it was a no-brainer because I don't see him in that elite category. I don't think he should be paid as a number 1 corner. I don't see him as an elite cornerback. He's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I don't put him up there in that top 3, that top corner in the league. I just don't see it. I don't know. He's not a good tackler. He's getting injured a lot more, concussions. Like, this is certain. It's not there. But I made a joke to you. You commented me on Twitter when I said he's like Otis Smith, and Otis Smith was a good player. But that's how I look at him. He's long, he's skinny. He has that. So, like, Otis Smith wasn't considered like the best corner in football, but he was a good player. He was a solid
he was a system guy. He thrived when he had the right pieces around him that could allow him to do his thing. Yeah,
he played great on the Parcells, in his system. And I just look at Gardner, and I don't see him in that, like, Patrick Surtain. I don't see him on that level. I just feel he's maybe the next tier, down. So, like, what the Jets are trying to do right now, they're trying to, build up some ammo to potentially move up in the draft, get that franchise guy. Let's see what happens. But I'm totally okay with it. At the end of the day, you need the quarterback. There's no team in the NFL that is a cornerback away from a Super Bowl. So there's no team in the NFL that's like, if I draft this corner in the top 10, we're going to Super Bowl. No, there's no corner that's going to put you to win. The main thing is winning a championship, not making the playoffs. You want to win a championship, and you need the quarterback to win the championship. There are occasions when you have a top defense, and you can still win it, like the Ravens did in 2000, the Bucks, right? Even though Brad Johnson to me was a pretty good quarterback, but there are times when the quarterback maybe isn't elite,
Trent Dilfer comes to mind.
That's right. Right. But that was with the Ravens, right? That was 2000. Was that Baltimore when they won in 2000?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. So my point is that it seldomly there's an occasion here and there when maybe that could happen, but ultimately you need the quarterback. It's the same guys in the playoffs every year. It's Lamar Jackson, it's Josh Allen, it's Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts. You need a quarterback. That's it. So if you're going to trade me 2 first-round picks, then I'm all in.
Love you too, Pete, man. Hope Pops is doing all right. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Be a fan, Pete. He's our promoter. Peter. He posts all the sports affiliation stuff on X. Great guy. Had him on Aces Up a couple weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, actually, because last week there was no show, so I can't say a couple weeks ago, but 2 shows ago. But all right, so you made it through your fantasy background interview, so we're gonna bring on Joey now.
Pleasure.
And Joey, what's up, brother?
Just the other night talking football. It's a great story. I enjoyed listening to all that. That was good.
There you go, Pete.
I
You got
didn't
a
start
fan.
playing in 07, so I didn't start playing fantasy until 07, but I watched football back in 99 there when he was talking about his teams. That was
yeah,
good.
Pete, same 98 for me. So you're right there with me, man. Same experience. So don't count yourself out, man. Keep working hard at the high stakes. You know, keep doing what you need to do during the season. Get your team going. I know last year you said you dealt with some injuries. If I can recall that live New York draft last year, you were down like 6th or 7th, and you worked your way up. So, you know, you're going in the right direction. In-season management is critical. The first time I played a prime time, I was in first place. I killed the draft. I was in first place all the way to week 14, and the lead slipped out, and I've been chasing that. I still don't have a prime time title. So, you know, still working on the prime time, the bigger stage title. Like Joey's got a couple, and the prime time he's got a couple in the silver bullet. That one's eluded me so far. I've just been beaten up on the online championships, I guess. But yeah, keep working at it.
They're hard to get. It don't matter what price level you play in FFC.
Yeah.
It's a grind no matter what, and always keep going no matter if you're losing. Keep learning. To be honest with you, the 350 used to be my main event team. That's how I considered it over all the years before I ever started playing. And I always worked myself up. You know, I started out in some of the top 3 150s. Then I worked my way up because I'm a low volume player. I can't afford a lot of teams. I wished I could, but I don't think you can manage a lot of teams. I don't see how some people do it, but respect to them if they do it. So, but it's a grind. But 350 was always like okay, that's what I saved my money up for. That's what I was going to play in. And then I just kept working myself up. The COVID year was the first year I played in prime time, and I actually won it by 0.10 in week 14. I won it by Amari Cooper dropped a pass, or it would have went into he would have had the most points. I had the best record, but I had the best record and the points after that Monday night game.
Did you mail Amari Cooper a Christmas card?
I need to. I was glad he dropped it. I was like, oh God, this is over. I said, I won one. So
that's great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a grind, but you know, me and Joe, we talk a lot. And, you know, you're more welcome to talk to us too. Like I said, we help each other out, and we learn from each other. I've learned a lot over the years. You know, just like back when I started playing, like you all did, talk about magazines. I used to be one of them people who pick up every single one. Okay, and then this person says this. You nowadays you can't do that. You need to choose about 3 or 4 things that you really look at each week. Because if you look at every site, you're going to think, oh, God, I should have played this and I should have played that one. And nobody's going to get nothing right. I mean, everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to miss out. And I made them too.
Scott Engel in the house.
Yeah, Scott. I always look up to Scott Engel and Adam Ronas back in the day, Roto experts. They've taught me a lot over the years. I have to give him a lot of credit. Adam Ronas and Scott both are great. The producer was great too, Corey Parse. I don't know if y'all remember him or not, but they probably the best show ever on the channel on SiriusXM Fantasy at the time. It was good.
Nice, like that, Joe. Definitely, you got to trust your resources and
You
only
got to
stick to
limit
a
them
few.
too. You just
When
can't
you
look at everything, because if
no,
you do, you're just gonna be messed up. I mean, just
yeah,
messing
then
you
it
up.
makes you second guess things, and you gotta. Ultimately, you got to go with your gut and your own decision, but you got to stick to what resources work for you as far as the information that you need to give you to put yourself in the best position to make it the best decisions you can make. It's the best way I can say it. So why don't we? We've got a little list of things to talk about here. Fantasy football discussion. We'll do a quick recap of last night's game. Arizona beats Dallas 27-17. I got the score right. I didn't get the winner right, but I got the score right. Remember, we talked about that last night on the show. I didn't think it was going to be a shootout. I thought Dallas offense was going to struggle against Arizona. I called it. Yeah. Joe, you got any? Actually, we'll go with Pete. You watched last night's game at all? Did you catch
I
it?
still have to review the game.
Okay.
I finished watching it, so I can't give you my opinion.
All right. We saw Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride got in the end zone. Running backs didn't do all that much for Arizona. Jacoby Brissett looked awesome. I'm glad that he's going to be the starter going forward for a few weeks here, because Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride look, way better production wise with him there over Kyler. Dallas Cowboys. I was surprised that Jadon Blue being inactive. I thought he was starting to gain some momentum the last couple of weeks. They gave him, 15 carries over the last 2 weeks, and then they just made him a healthy inactive, which, confused me a little bit. But, Dallas's offense Arizona's defense is they're underrated. They're much better than teams than people give them credit for. The pass defense is solid. Top, they were fourth in the NFL total pass defense coming into last night's game, and I had a feeling that if Dallas didn't stick with the run to open up the pass, that game wasn't going to go over. The implied total was 54.5 points. I thought that was a little high, but I didn't bet on it, but it didn't make sense to me. Dan,
I was going, and I don't know why. Sometimes I get trapped into the rankings, and you don't want it. Like I had it in one of my leagues. I was there was really nothing on the wire for defense, so I was choosing between the Giants and the Commanders. I still call them the Redskins, but we'll say the Commanders. Anyway, the Cowboys were there, and I said, you know what? I know the Cowboy defense is terrible, like statistically, but I felt it was a good pickup at home because Brissett, he's getting sacked a lot. So I'm like, he might fumble, he might some. But my point is, you know what? They had a good game. They had the punt. It was a punt return for a touchdown. I didn't
Block punt. Yeah.
It was a block punt. Okay, and I think they sacked him 5 times. They sacked Brissett 5 times, and I'm like, that was, and Mike. So my gut, like you said earlier, Joe, you got to trust your gut. My gut said, you know what, just pick up the Cowboys. That's the best play. But I wound up listening to the rankings, and I went with the Giants. The Giants were terrible. They did terrible.
Yeah, you got to stick to your instinct. If your instinct is sniffing out something, picking up on something, go with it. Especially with defense. If there's any position to throw the rankings out the window, it's defense, because sometimes the matchup is really the X factor over the ranking.
And speaking of defenses too, like, talk about discussions, I went and picked up the Browns defense. A lot of people won't carry two. I like to carry two defenses. I picked them up on a bye week. I was like, okay, I've got room for them. I'm going to take them because, we'll get into this, but like week 14, I think they got Tennessee at home. Wow. And now they've got some good match. They got the Jets. They got the Jets too. That could be an ugly game, but I like picking up players sometimes on a buy. I mean, defenses or anything, because if you got the room, just looking out at the, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like we're going to talk, it's never too early to look at your team's lineups. Like, that's one good thing about the NFFC. You can click on each week there just to see how your team stacks up with the bye weeks. To see, okay. And plus, like, if you're in contention, this is just a tidbit I've told Joe this 1,000 times. Like, when schedule releases come out, you're always hoping that you're in contention. So I always draft a player, from the December 8th Monday night game. I'm hoping I'm in contention. So that's Chargers, Eagles, I think. I'm not saying you have to have both, but let's say you got, like you said, you was in second and one. Let's say you might want to pick. I know not many Eagles are available, but maybe somebody's dropped their kicker and you got a Charger. So you're getting points on either side of the ball on week 14 in case you are in contention for the placement or to win a league title. I always look at week 17, you're just hoping that you're in a shootout. But, I mean, it may not never happen week 17, but you're definitely in week 14. So I always look at the Monday night game that's going to end the league championships. I'm hoping I'm in contention. So I hope I get Murray and Hampton back. But I've got Vidal and I've got Quentin Johnston, which he's been good, but we'll see what happens.
Joey likes to have that last-minute hammer.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in control. I've been there before, like 2018, and I didn't have nobody going on that Monday night game, and I about lost. I won by 2 or 3 points in the OC consolation, and it was for $5,000. I was like, oh, God. I was sitting there thinking, I can't do nothing about it. I ain't got nobody going. I said, I won't do that no more. I won't experience that no more. So that's just something I do.
Nice. I like that, Joe, because sometimes, if the matchup is you need like 7 points and you got a guy going that night and your opponents don't, or the people around you and the overall standings don't, it's a nice feel. Like you said, it's a nice feeling to have that you got that last minute hammer.
Yeah.
So
because placement is so important in these leagues. Like, he said he's in second. I'm in second, a couple of them too. But and it's about watching these schedules. Like, okay, like for instance, I'm down 37 points in my bullet league right now, and this guy don't have nobody that's in front of me. Do I want to roll out Bo Nix against the Raiders to try to close that gap and hope he has a good game and hope his players play bad, or do I want to roll out Drake May? I mean, I've got 2 good matchups. I mean, I think Tampa and New England could be a high-scoring game. If I don't roll out Bo Nix, I've got Denver defense, or I've got Cleveland defense. So there's a couple decisions. It's hard to miss. You got to try to get everything right, and we will give Scott Engel another shout out here. Always remember this. I always said, no matter what, play the healthy guy. I've learned that from the years that if you ever see anybody that's kind of questionable and he's going to be in the lineup, always play the healthy guy. No matter, I've learned that from Scott and Adam over the years too. So that's going forward. You about have to.
Not just a healthy guy, but especially during bye weeks, Joe. You want you want to secure the points. People say, upside. It's nice to have upside, but you got sometimes when there's bye weeks, you get two of your key players, 2 of your upside key players on a bye week, and then you have a decision to make, like the terrible decision that I made a couple of weeks back, and I thought. Luke McCaffrey had 2 good games in a row. Wide receivers are out. He's now the top option. They're going against Dallas defense. My eyes got big looking at the matchup, and I chased upside and at that time, Devonta Smith was just giving us consistent floors. He didn't have that big breakout game yet, and I thought like a DFS player and not a redraft manager who should just be securing points throughout the bye weeks. You want to give yourself a floor. You don't want to chase upside and end up with a goose egg like I did, and then end up costing me 33 points. Devonta Smith had his breakout game for 33 points, and Luke McCaffrey gave me a goose egg, and it was because I went away from the simple just get through the bye week strategy and don't chase upside. You chase upside when you have the luxury of chasing upside.
Have y'all ever seen as many zeros? I mean, I had Quentin Johnston there a couple weeks ago.
I've only had one so far this year, and that was that Luke McCaffrey one. That's it. That's all I've had this year. I didn't have I don't have any Rome actually. Yeah, I guess Romo. I do have one Romo doing Zach.
He went 0 too. And then I mean, you can't do nothing.
That one isn't like a lot of times you'll pick up a free agent who a wide receiver off the free agent list who's put together a couple of good games in a row with volume, and then you'll plug them in and they'll disappear. Like Torrey Horton is an example from earlier on this year. He had a couple of games with a touchdown. People started picking him up. If you played him prematurely, then you ate that donut. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. Like those are the ones that you can avoid. But the Rome Odunze one is just unexplainable. Like there's nothing that's not a mistake.
When the Bears scored what 42,
47.
I almost think like maybe the internet didn't refresh. Like maybe something didn't update. Like that can't be right. 0 points. Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed too, playing the matchups, like I had a situation this weekend and it was a smaller scale, but my RB2, I was looking at Aaron Jones on the Vikings, and he had a terrible matchup versus the Lions. And you're like, everyone's saying, you're reading the internet, you're reading everyone's opinion. They're saying if you can bench him, leave him on your bench. And he actually was having a good game until he got hurt. He had I think he gave it 11 points. That's like the floor, I guess, for RB2. But it's just, another player too. Diggs was another guy. People were saying Stephon Diggs has a tough matchup. He did have a somewhat tough matchup, but he scored a touchdown. So the matchups are tough. It's dangerous. When you're playing the matchup, sometimes it's like you keep rolling with the guy that you drafted.
Yes, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you drafted him for a reason.
Yeah, who's the guy that you drafted to be the guy? You know what I'm saying? Or are you gonna? Because I think we need a few weeks to figure out sometimes. Maybe the guy you drafted will be like Brian Thomas, right? Everybody's riding this guy. They're starting him. They're waiting for the Brian Thomas with Mac Jones. That Mac Jones is in San Francisco. He ain't coming to Jacksonville, and this is the Brian Thomas you got now. And this, it's like, but you keep rolling him out there. Now, when do you get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm not starting this guy no more. I got a guy on my bench, maybe a Troy Franklin, on Denver that's giving me like 15 points, these big pops, and then you finally bench Thomas and he gives you like 32 points. You know what I'm saying? It's sometimes it's frustrating, like when you see these things unfold, and actually there was one year. This is my 4th year playing the NFFC. So my 2nd year, I actually tried the best ball leagues. I was trying best ball because I got frustrated with the start sits and starting the wrong guy. But best ball was so boring. Like it's like you draft a team and that's really, it's like that's it. And like you drafted a guy as like an RB5, and he gives you that big pop, and he goes into your starting lineup. But you didn't really make that decision. It's like
I agree.
There was
no saying that.
Yeah, there was no it was almost a wasted fantasy year for me when I played those leagues. I'm like, it's not, it's not the same. But yeah, it's challenging when you have that, and you have a tough, like Joey, you got a tough decision. Bo Nix or Drake May. That's a hard decision.
It really is. I mean, it is tough, and
And Pete, don't think for a second he won't call me about 9 times between now and Sunday asking me who he should play.
Well, actually, we got the Thursday night because Bo Nix is on Thursday.
Oh, it's even worse. Thursday night.
So Joey likes to sometimes put pressure on the person he's battling with in the standings, and he'll play a Thursday night guy if he thinks that he's going to put up like a 35 or more, and then make the other guy make some hasty decisions and try to chase upside. You know what I mean?
It's tough decisions. I mean, that's the beauty of of fantasy football. Like he's talking about best ball. Now you see these people win these big overall titles in best ball. Yeah, you're a good drafter, but would you actually make that decision in starting and sit? I don't think you're that great of a player. I mean, I'm not saying that bad. I'm just saying you're still a good drafter, but would you make that decision in that starting sit in your lineup?
Week in and week out, too.
Week in and week out. Yeah. I don't do many best balls because I frankly I used to do like the NFLC $25 one just for the price point, but it don't really help me. And what I mean by that is I do go ahead and spend up the $50 the OC qualifier because they do third round reversal. And that's what I'm used to. So, and then 25s, it's just pure snake draft. So it really don't help us, and even in the OCs and whatever. So I just like going in the $50 ones for practice. To feel where I like to draft from, the back end or front end or what.
It's almost like a mock draft or something.
I like the 35 round ones because it gets you exposure to a lot of players. Yeah, the player pool. Yeah, you get a feel for the landscape. This is why I do one draft in May, one draft in June. Then I do 2 in July, and then as many as I can in August, because you get a feel for how the landscape is growing. You get to take advantage of the early value. Sometimes there's you can get guys in round 8 and 9 in May and June, but then they're in round 6 come August. Like a Mika Buka is one that I can think of. There's guys move up and then guys move back, like Ty Warren. The live New York primetime, I got Ty Warren in round 10.
Wow.
And he was moving up, and you know what I mean? And it's like and then some guys will drop back because other guys are steaming up. And it's something that you get a real good feel for if you've been drafting the entire the entire draft season, so I guess, so to speak, the earlier ones.
That's the difference too. Like if you say you've done 4 of them online championships, if you do like 2 of them early in the season and a draft season, then later, you'll see so much value early on. But I mean, I hate to draft real early because I'm a low volume player.
Right.
And then you've lost a player during the preseason before the season really gets started. But there's advantages and disadvantages to either way you do it.
I mean, you could also – the NFFC is great because you can go on the website and look at the ADP. You could filter it out by like the last 5 drafts, the last 5 days, and you can kind of do it that way too. If it's a little different, you're not actually in the draft room and get to see exactly, the exact draft itself and have that feel. But if you study it well enough and make notes and you see the minimum, they show the earliest they've went and the latest that they've went. And, I don't know if you guys do this, but I make notes, if I go like 3-4 weeks without a draft, I'm looking at it every 4 or 5 days, and I'm filtering out just to those days, and I'm making notes about some of the players that I seen fall or move up or go earlier than they should have, and that's another way to keep up with the landscape of the ADP, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, especially the trends, like who's moving up. If somebody moves up, somebody's falling. Usually, so it is good to watch it every so often and keep up
Pete,
with it.
Puka's a good example too, because when Stafford had that back scare, Puka's one.
Hmm.
I got Puka in the mid-second in our live draft, live New York City.
yeah.
Uh, and then once we saw Stafford, okay, he's going to play. Now he's going, late first. He was going like eighth, ninth, 10th overall. But yeah, I was able to get him in the mid-second, which was a steal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's let me ask you this, Pete. Since we never had a conversation about this before, KDP. How do you approach the KDP?
ADP.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me
Oh,
tell you.
not KD, KDS. Is it KDP? Okay, that might
KDS is for the draft choice. Yeah.
KDS. KDS. That's what I meant to say.
What does
The
it stand?
the KDS. The how you set the draft order that you want.
Oh, I see. The Kentucky something.
Kentucky
Yeah,
Derby
yeah.
6.
How do you determine? How do you
Uh,
go about determining where you want to pick?
well, like again, like Joey's a low volume player, and I feel I'm the same way. I only did 4 leagues this year. I was actually only going to do 3 leagues, but I did the live New York
So
City.
so just so you guys know, I usually do 3 or 4. This year I decided I wanted to do 9
Wow.
online championships. So every year I do 3, I always get one inside the top 50. So I thought to myself this year, maybe if I do 9, I can get 3 or 4 of them into the shootout. And I showed you some of the standings earlier. I got 3 or 4 right there. So I'm hoping that I can get all 3 or 4 in there. We still got 6 weeks to go, but they're all heading in. They're all pointing in the right direction, and they're all.
You're in the, you're in the mix, definitely.
I
So
love it. I love one thing I like about the online championship too is if you do win one, you don't have to take the money. You can always take a prime time
yes,
for
that's another thing. Yeah,
yeah, I
you
like
get
that.
in the prime time cheap.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Pete.
No, the way I broke it up, what I did was I said, let me have a player from 1 to 4, picks 1 to 4. Give me a player from picks 5 to 8, and then give me a player from pick 9 to 12, and I'll build my team in those 3 locations. And that's how I did it. The funny thing is, I tried to get the second and third pick twice, and I didn't get it because I wanted CeeDee Lamb. Um, but I never got CeeDee Lamb. I wound up getting Bijan. I got Gibbs, and I took Genty in the late first when I had that 9 to 12 pick. Um, and I took Genty over Derrick Henry. And after week 1, I was like, oh, I think I screwed that up.
No, I did the same thing. I have 2 Genty teams,
Yeah.
so
Well, it had promise. I had Scatabo and Genty, and now Scatabo. We know what happened to him. So um, it's just part of the game. It's a very humbling sport, not just playing football in general. It's a week to week sport, and you can beat
Mhm.
any week. And that we saw it this past weekend. Like the Panthers, nobody had the Panthers beating the Packers. Nobody. I think Vegas, what was the line? 12.5. I think that line was 13.5. I'm not sure what the line was up to. But it's just that's the beauty of football is any given Sunday you can win. If the matchup is right, if that player could be a little off, something it's like the Panthers matched up well versus the Packers in that game. And that's the beauty of sports. It's just so I look at that. You got to look. I have to look at that in fantasy as well. It's like what I could play a team that is like 2-5. And he beats me. His team has a great week. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's your sports. So, um, yeah, that I think that's what keeps us coming back for more. You know, is that it's just never it's never over. It's like any given Sunday you can win. You can go on a 5 game winning streak. You can be, you know, you can win out. Like I remember in my hometown league, I squeaked into the playoffs. I got the 6th seed and I wound up winning the whole thing. So it was like I just got into the playoffs. My team got hot, and I
that's why you got to keep trying.
Yeah.
Right.
Even when your team isn't doing good, you got to keep trying to improve it, and you got to keep trying to make the best lineup decisions, because all it takes is a 2 or 3 good weeks in a row, and you're right back in the mix.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, especially the total points contests. Like, you can score a 185, a 170, and then a 168, and you were 115 points behind 3 weeks ago. Now you're right there in the mix at the top, with the rest of the teams. Unless there's a monster, unless you're dealing with a monster. But yeah, for the most part.
Did you guys play football in like high school or?
I played one year, and I decided it was too much of a beating.
I played football, junior high, high school. I didn't play in college, but the beauty of the game was like, you're in the huddle, you go up to the line of scrimmage, you battle. The play lasts maybe like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and it's over. And you have to regroup, get back into the huddle, and do it all over again. So you might get beat or you might win that battle, but you're always going to get another chance. And I believe it's the metaphor of life. It's like, it's like you might lose this battle, but don't give up. You're going to have another chance. So Joe, you might start the wrong player. You might start Drake May, maybe Bo Nix throws 5 touchdowns.
Oh, I know. Yeah. That's the beauty of it,
But you're going to come back for more. If you made the wrong decision, you're going to say, you know what? I got to get better. I'm going to get better, and I'm going to make the best. The next week, I'm going to make a better decision.
Well, that's just like this past weekend, for an example. I think me and Joe talked about it. The funny thing of it is, on Silver Bullet, I went back and looked at our draft board a while ago. I drafted Colston Loveland. I drafted him, paired him up with Tyler Warren. I said, I'm going to take 2 rookie tight ends. Okay, I dropped him. But I picked him back up. I had intentions on playing him this week.
Great.
But Cole Kmet was back. And I said, no, I just can't do it. But I'm hoping this is moving forward. Now, I know everybody's going to say, okay, he scored 29 points. But now I look at it as a 17-point game. That was a busted play. He scored on a 58-yard touchdown, took it to the house. So everybody's going to chase him 29. But, if you get 17 points out of him, if you got him anywhere, I'm hoping that, he gets to play more now, even with Kmet back. They took you number 10 overall. They got to play him at some point.
I would be careful, but because I think Ohio State can score 40 points on that Bengal defense.
I know, right? They're good bad against the tight ends.
Yeah, the Bengal defense they could be statistically the worst defense maybe when the season's over, like in the history of. I don't know who's the actual worst defense, but they are a bad defense. And then, I don't know if you saw the Chase Brown interview in the locker room after the game. He was like,
he was upset.
He's like, I don't know what else to do. He's like, like the offense scored. When you put up 40 points, you should win the game. And their defense gave up 47. What was it, 47 or something?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, it's just they're a terrible. So Loveland's a nice player, but yeah, it's.
Yeah, I mean, the points was skewed. Like I said, that busted last play, but but. In fantasy, I knew that was the matchup to play. I had picked him up and was going to play him, but when Kmet came back, I said, well, it's too risky.
Who did you play, Joe?
Oh,
I played Tyrone Tracy.
But
that's
okay, man.
I just didn't have a good week. I mean, I had JT who done nothing. Tyler Warren done nothing. Vidal done nothing. And lucky to be down 37. I was down 48 going into Monday night, and I used to kicker for Arizona, and got 11 of it back.
Josh is a Bengals fan.
Sorry, Josh.
Yeah. So listen, we all make mistakes. I played Caleb Williams over Bo Nix, and it costed me 40 points. And then that same week, I played Devonta Smith over CMC, and it costed me 33. You do the math. I showed Pete my standings. If I had those 74 points, where am I? I'm first. I'm tied for first with the record, and in second place for total points. But now I'm tied for first with the record, and I'm in seventh for total points. But there's not that much of a gap between third and seventh. It's only about 53 points. So
that can be made up.
Yeah, and that's why I gotta put it. I've been trying. I'm still not over it, but been trying to put it out of my head and just trying to make good decisions going forward. And so far, so good.
It's like I said earlier. Like when I played the game, you come out of the huddle and you're gonna win one. You're gonna lose a matchup. You're gonna win. You lost that matchup, but now you got to get back in the huddle, and you don't want to go back onto that line of scrimmage with that that losing thinking, that losing feeling. So you got just let it go, Joe. Just let it go.
Oh yeah. I just hope when we get to week 14 that it doesn't make a difference. That's when it'll really start.
That's basically what all three of us here is trying. You just got to try to give yourself a chance. I mean, how about just try to be in contention as best as you can. Make all of the, even if you got a low dollar amount in fab going forward, even if it's just okay, these guys are going to pick these wide receivers up. Like you said, on the line of scrimmage, go to the game of trenches. If it's a defense or a kicker, I mean, you can get points anywhere. And that's, if you can get them just any –
right.
Kickers is really important too. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like using them, but NFLC is the best, though. Team kicker, you don't have to worry about an injury or nothing. But
yeah, you get the team kicker. I like that. That helped me out. That made me not drop the Bears kicker.
They've got
kicker and defense, I say it all the time. The goal is to get 25 points every week out of those two spots. That's what you want, 25 points. And you want to anywhere between 10 and 25 is acceptable, but you don't want less than 10. If you get less than 10, you're behind the 8 ball for sure. We seen Houston kicker got 19.5 this past week. If you had that plus Dallas D, just throw it out there, and you retained Houston kicker all week, and you made that good call, like you said, Pete. You stuck. If you went with your instinct in that situation, you hit your 25 point quota, so to speak, and that makes a difference, especially when your team actually has a good week. That's how you can get into the 170s and the 180s and the 190s for the week, is when you have your defense and your kicker pop with your lineup. Yeah. Pete, we have to go over one of your mistakes, because I think we need to talk about the importance of knowing who to drop. So I hate to bring it up, but I think it's a good time for a learning experience. Maybe me and Joey can shed. I mean, you and I already talked about it in the DM, so I tried to shed some light on you. You got 20 roster spots. When you draft an elite, so one of my things is when I draft an elite quarterback, and I think it might change going forward just because of how deep quarterback is now. I feel like there's a lot of good quarterbacks that go late. But generally over the last couple of years, and I'm mostly a wait on quarterback guy, but when I do push up and reach for a Josh Allen or a Jalen Hurts or a Lamar Jackson, I usually don't draft the second quarterback. The mistake I'm talking about with you was you drafted Lamar Jackson, and then you had Drake May fall into your lap in what was it, the 12th or the 13th round, and you just couldn't pass him up, and you took him. at that point, you have to hang on to him. Now, last year I had Lamar, and I had Lamar and Josh Allen. The Josh Allen team, I didn't take a second quarterback. But the Lamar team, I had Baker Mayfield fall to like round 15, and I picked him. And at that point, if you do take that second quarterback, you need to hang on to him, because especially if you have one of the running backs, that is a chance that they can miss games. So it's just one of those things, even if you don't have any intentions on ever playing him, if he's a top 10 quarterback, that's a top 10 quarterback that somebody else doesn't have. You know what I'm saying? And that goes a long way. It actually does go a long way into winning your league, like the league itself. And it also gives you depth. Like, you ended up got a double whammy, and Lamar ended up getting hurt. And you were out there scrambling for a quarterback. So, Joey, what's your thoughts on you got any thoughts on that?
On quarterbacks, even if I draft an elite quarterback, I draft a backup. I keep the backup. I like two quarterbacks. Like I tell you, for instance, this year he was cheap. I got a few of my 350s. I've got Jalen Hurts paired up with Justin Herbert. That's like. I mean, he was 14th or 15th round. I'm like, based going into the year, everybody says, okay, they're going to be a run heavy scheme team. That's what Greg Roman and Harbaugh does. But it's been flipped. They've been passing the ball. So I was sitting there thinking, well, I'm not going to let nobody have Justin Herbert. I said, I need a backup. So there I have to mess with that. But I know if one gets hurt, I've got another elite quarterback that, I can play. But I like having two quarterbacks and two decent tight ends. I mean, the rest of it you can fill in, but I do like keeping two quarterbacks. I always draft two, no matter if I draft an elite one or not. I might not. Now, like this year, I had Bo Nix. That was my target. Joe knows that. It was my target based on, I said, I think he can, which he's been hit and miss a little bit. And so I paired him up with Drake May. And I was after Justin Herbert, but I couldn't because both bye weeks was 12. So that's how come I ended up with Nix and May. I said, well, I've got two running quarterbacks. But
nice. Dan and Josh are contributing to the mistake conversation. Nice. So remember what I said to you, Pete, when you mentioned that mistake to me? Do you remember what I said to you?
I think you said I shouldn't have taken the
No.
second quarterback.
No, but did you ever go back and look at the draft board?
Well, I didn't want to torture myself.
and see who? I mean, not saying that picking Drake May was bad there, but if I was like I mentioned before, there is an option of not taking a second quarterback and then figuring it out by week 3, week 4. There's a quarterback that I added in week 4, and he's been of service of me right now. And Joey and I were talking about it before he was even the starter when Russell Wilson was starting to struggle. Him and I were saying I think it's about time now that we go out there and get Jackson Dot for $10 or whatever. And there's always a quarterback that's going to present themselves. Sam Darnold's another one. You know what I mean? And that's why I sometimes go with one quarterback. But because there could be somebody there in round 12 that's a league winner. A wide receiver or a running back or even a tight end like Tucker Kraft was going in round 12. There's a good example. He's hurt now and he's done for the year, but that's a guy that you probably could have taken there. I don't know who your tight end is in that league.
George Kittle, yeah, he was injured.
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. But going back and looking at the draft board towards, mid-season, even toward, like, I do it probably 2 or 3 times per year. I do it less. I've done it less this year because I have more teams. But where you have 3 or 4 teams, I would be looking at that draft board 3 times throughout the season and really looking at, like, studying. Like you can't fix the mistakes and you can't change player selection, but you can open your eyes up to like certain build opportunities that you could have, and then you just keep it in the back of your mind for future drafts. As always, year to year, things change. Like for instance, the past 3 years, it's, running back has been an option. And for a few years before that, the 0 RB was king. So every year there's going to be a strategy that ends up being the best strategy, but you can really put together a really good team using any type of strategy as long as you build it properly and you execute it. So when you go back and look at the draft board, that's why what I mean by studying the draft board after the fact, using hindsight as a guide to kind of open your eyes up to other possible ways that you can build your team in future drafts. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, it makes tremendous sense.
Oh, I mean, all 3 of us here probably sit and draft totally different. That's the beauty of fantasy football. What works for me might not work for you, or what you do might not work for me. So I will never. Anybody can build a roster any certain way. I'm a wide receiver guy, and I like to flip the board, so to speak. This is a story I like to tell you.
Flipping the board is an awesome move, Joe. I'm gonna let you tell your story, but I totally agree with your strategy here.
What does that mean, flipping the board?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I've done in 2021. I believe the year.
That was the year. Yep.
Devontae Adams was my guy that year, and running backs all go number. And there's 14 leagues that year in the Silver Bullet, and I had picked number 2 that year. And I said, looking at ADP, I said, I cannot get Devontae Adams right there. So I took him at number 2 on that team. I pulled him up. I'm crazy like that sometimes. I pull a guy up, and I was the only person who had him out of the 2 hole. So if you ever believe in who you want, don't be afraid to take them. I mean, if you believe in a player that you can build around of, and I got lucky, I won that year. I won the league that year, but I took Devontae Adams. I was the only number 2 pick. I wanted to be totally different than every number 2 pick, man. But in old season stuff, you're probably not going to be totally different. You probably ain't going to flip.
No, I was just going to say that, Joe. That gives you a unique build. That gives you something that is yours. I did the same thing the year I came in 4th place. I took Todd Gurley at 1, and because it's 3rd round reversal, you got to make that 2nd round pick count, because then it goes right back to 12. You don't get that 3rd guy. And there was a guy that I knew that wasn't going to be available when he came back around, and I pushed him up and took him, and that was Adam Thielen from Minnesota. And he had a huge year that year. He was 20 to 30 points almost every single week. And his ADP was back end of round 2, early round 3. Back end of mid. He was mid 3rd round to the end of the 3rd round. He wasn't going that high. I took him at was it 24? I think his ADP was at the turn, at the 3-4 turn that year. Stephon Diggs was going ahead of him, and I took him before Stephon Diggs. I pushed him way up, and it was because of the way he finished the year before, and I just felt like he was going to be a target monster, and he was prime. That was his prime breakout season, and like you said, and that was my only entry. And there was no way out. He was like, so flipping the board. That's what flipping the board is.
Well, I kind of did that this year too, guys, in the second round.
With Jonathan Taylor, yeah.
I took JT. I had 10th pick in the last 3 drafts I had. So I took Drake London each time. That was my guy. That's who I wanted. That's who I was wanting to build around. So it was always between Chase Brown or Jonathan Taylor. And I ended up going Jonathan Taylor at, I guess, what would that be, 15 or 16 on the turn?
I was at 14.
14. I pulled him up. Yeah. He was going almost at the
15. 15.
He was going at the end of round two. I pulled him back. I brought him back up.
So in the early drafts, that's where he was going. He slid back as draft season went on. So that wasn't a bad pull up. I kind of wish I did it. The thing with me is I went Chase Brown there over Jonathan Taylor because of Cincinnati's schedule. If you look at, and still it holds water. Their week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, awesome fantasy football schedule. And that's why I was on Chase Brown, and that's why I had to recover from Joe Burrow. Thank God I did. God bless you, Jackson Dott and Sam Donald. But I did have a lot of Joe Burrow and a lot of Chase Brown this year because of that shootout schedule and planning around fantasy front. Like you said, Joe, you look ahead at those end game at those last few weeks, and you use it as tiebreakers. And that, I do have Jonathan Taylor, and he's in, no surprise, it's my highest ranked OC. But I didn't target him as much as I wish I did. I was picking Chase Brown over him as we got closer to August in the start of the season. Early on, I got my Jonathan Taylor.
I know y'all probably heard of him too. One of my good friends, me and him talk a lot too. Tommy Libretti, he won the prime time and the bullet overall, and me and him talked early in the draft season. He said, man, it was between Chase Brown and Jonathan Taylor. He said, I really like Taylor as a lot. He said he could be number one running back. And I said, he kind of put me on him. I'm like, I think he's right. I mean, I didn't think Daniel Jones is going to be this as good as he has been, but that's opened up that offense a little bit. They don't have to stack 8 in the box against him anymore, but he's been really good. He's what's got me in my second places right now. Hopefully I can just hold on to second. I'll be tickled death with that.
But that also, the Burrow injury, helped, well, I'm saying Burrow got hurt in the regular season, but if Burrow was healthy, would it be closer with Chase Brown? Nobody's
right.
Burrow. But no, still, Taylor's an excellent pick. It's in the live New York City draft, I got Cooper in the middle of the second, but all those running backs came off the board in the second round. It was McCaffrey, Taylor, Brown. I think Brown went before I took Puka. I wasn't expecting to get Puka in the middle of the second round.
That was a great pick.
Yeah, but one thing I need to get better at too is when a player, especially an elite, a player like McCaffrey, right? 2 years ago, everybody took him number 1, top 2, and we all know how that turned out. He never played. Well, he did play a few games, right? But then he was out for the year. Never give up on a player that burned you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You never want, because I didn't have McCaffrey last year, but there was a year I took Julio Jones, I remember, a long time ago, and he got injured that year. I forget. He was having a career year, and he got injured. He was out for the year. And I was like, I'm never taking this guy again. And in the next year, he had that career year. He finally had that monster year. He put it all together. And I was like, and I could have taken him. And I think I took Demaryius Thomas, and Julio had, he had that one huge year. And that now what happened with McCaffrey. Like I said in the summer, McCaffrey's a player I don't want to touch. I'm scared of his injury history, but I did say if he has a healthy camp, I would consider him. But when push came to shove and it was my turn to pick, I passed him up, not just in the first round, but in the second round. So I need to be more open, especially if a player has already proven that he's done it already. Like a guy like Jonathan Taylor, right? He's been kind of frustrating the last few years, but he had that one monster year, right? Like 3 years ago, maybe. I forget when that year he had. That was a huge year.
When he's healthy, he's an animal, and
right.
just in the way, and people forget how he finished last year too. He had like 3 30-plus point games in the last like 5 weeks last year because he was healthy.
Yeah.
Now, I did the same thing you was talking about, Pete. I had the 10th pick, and I took Drake London. I told Joe I passed up CMC. He went right after me at 11, but I only had one team. I said, I don't want to put my eggs in the basket with CMC. I said, I hate to lose a first-round pick if he gets hurt, but any of us could lose anybody at any given time. But I hear what you're saying, and you're right. I mean, the range of outcomes for him could be anything.
Yes.
He could be the number one player in fantasy. He could be hurt again, and he's doing this with Mac Jones too. I mean, he is the offense. I mean, it's all around. As long as he's on the field, I mean, he's going to get the touches.
He looks healthy. Like you can, he's not like limping off the field. He's not showing any signs of like he's wearing down or anything. He looks really healthy this year now. So he's definitely a league winner. Him, Jonathan Taylor, those guys. If you have those guys on your team, you got to be winning like in the top 3.
Yeah, and y'all sit and think about, like you talking about Puka and McCaffrey. The back end of the draft was really where it was at because Amon-Ra St. Brown was back there too. I mean, he was going in the second round. I mean, first round players right now will probably be drafted in first round next year, midway. Amon-Ra, and then does JSN go into? That's the biggest regret I have. I didn't take him nowhere in the third. I mean, I didn't. I ain't got none of him.
I got a ton. He was my favorite third-round target.
And he's probably a first or second or 12th and 13th pick next year, just guessing. I don't know. But.
Yeah, it's like you said, Joe, as St. Brown, just last year, he was going 7th, 8th overall.
And then he said he got Puka in round 2. I mean, that's based on the Stafford news, but Stafford's looked like he's never been hurt a day of his life. He's played good.
It's also like a preference. A lot of those people from the back end were going wide receiver, running back, or even running back. Like I mentioned earlier, running back's been a thing. Like you passed up. You said you passed on CMC at 10. The person in the 11 spot took him, and then you had Jonathan Taylor in the sec. Like that person could have started CMC, Jonathan Taylor. So like running back is a thing in the past couple of years, just because the top 5 running backs, there's a huge drop off after that. There's not too many running backs that can give you receiving and rushing and have the whole backfield to themselves. So that's why the running back stat is pretty good. Obviously, you got to hit on the rest of your draft, and you got to make sure you grab an elite onesie position, an elite tight end or an elite quarterback, and nail the rest of your draft. But it's that's an option.
That's like where you two drafted at the GST up there. Chris Vaccaro, he has got a primetime team in the top 5. He started CMC, Jonathan Taylor. If you go back and look at the standings, like the overall standings, he's top 3 or 4 teams but he's got
that wasn't the New York draft though. That's
but he's got that. He's got that combination though. It's unreal. And he had Pickens too.
Running backs, if you're getting 300 total touches, like if you're getting a combination of 300 touches with carries and receptions, that, they have to be considered a first or second round pick, like that's,
If you have the chance to get two elites, you should probably take it.
Yeah.
And that's why guys like Puka and St. Brown, I feel like we're falling.
Well, you look at it. You go back and look at the draft boards now, like say a CMC and Taylor. Think you could got Pickens in the middle round. Odunze was 6th, 7th round, even though he was bad this week, but he's been good. Just think if you had Odunze or even if you went with JSN as your first one in the 3rd, Odunze and Pickens.
Devontae Adams in the 3rd too.
Yeah.
There was that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can go any direction. But once you got that foundation, you have to know the direction you're going forward. You can't mess it up. You can't go unbalanced. You can't make an unorthodox move as far as keeping a solid build going. You want to be balanced throughout. But yeah. So, I mean, whatever. The only thing we haven't talked about is week 10 waiver wire targets.
Who's left?
We got 4 teams on bye this week.
I honestly haven't even taken a look yet.
I got to work on that tonight.
I have 13 teams on Sleeper, and most of them are charity drafts and the sports. They're all like friendly leagues, small buy-in leagues, a dynasty league. But Sleeper does their waivers on Tuesday night, and then I do all my eye stakes on Wednesday usually. But, I took a quick peek on Sunday night, but, sometimes I look at it Sunday night in between the 7 o'clock. I mean, after the 4 o'clock games, before the 8:15 game starts, I'll go in and I'll fast forward to the next week and I'll pre-set my lineup. Nothing etched in stone, but any guys that are on bye, I'll pull out, and that's when I start making my notes. I'll have notes from the Sunday games, players that might not be on rosters, and then I'll make notes for each team. This guy's on a bye. This guy's on a bye. I need a wide receiver for this team. I need a running back for this team, and then I'll go back and then I'll quickly scan. But things change. Like we had a trade today with Jacoby Myers going to Jacksonville. So, if Parker Washington's probably already picked up, but what do you guys think that does to him now? Or does this mean Brian Thomas is hurt worse than we know? There's just, you have to go back and really comb. And then another thing, you have to take a look and see who guys dropped. You always got to pay attention to see who guys dropped. When that fab runs, make notes of guys that you potentially could be interested in, because this the saying, one man's trash is another man's gold. So
yeah, someone may have dropped Drake Bank.
Listen, I dropped Ramondre Stevenson a couple of years back, his rookie season, and I got Christian Watson was another one. Christian Watson's rookie year, I drafted him, stashed him for like 3-4 weeks. They put him on IR, and then there was a week 5 bye week. He was just set to come off of IR, and we hadn't seen him play yet. And I got sick and tired of stashing him, and I dropped him, and I picked up who I needed for the bye week. And then I went to try to pick him back up in the following week, which was my plan, and I got outbid, and he proceeded to score 7 touchdowns over the next 3 weeks. So, so
that's the biggest thing, and I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you two are too. Having patience with them bench players. Like you pick them up, okay, I think I picked up this Jim. Okay, he ain't done nothing. Then you drop him, then, oh, no, here I am. I'm going back out there trying to get him again. But patience is very –
It happens every year with somebody.
Bad on it. But you have to have patience a little bit. But don't beat yourself up over Drake May, man. No, stuff happens. Only thing from now on like that, what you know better, you ain't going to do that. But anytime you drop somebody, like if you're looking at your roster on 20-man field, like, okay, do I have a wide receiver 4 or 5 or 6 or running back 5 or 6 or 7? Am I really going to play them? Or is there something equivalent to that on the waiver wire? Like, okay, I can drop this and I can pick this one back up. But, stuff like that. But you drop wide receiver 5s, running back 6, it's going to turn out to be good eventually. Like I said, but you really ain't got much patience. You can't have a whole lot of patience in these leagues that we're all playing in. They're tough. They're mind-boggling.
Well, I had who's the tight end, Gatson, on the Chargers. I had picked him up after his week 1, but week 2 he had a big pop like early on in the season. Then he gave you 2 stinkers. I think it was week 2, week 3. He gave you like 2 points. I dropped him. I'm like, this guy's just one. He's going to be another one inconsistent. Tight end. 15 points 1 week, then 2, then 2, then 3. But then he became the hottest like waiver wire pickup. I'm like, I had this guy on 2 teams. The patience is a huge factor. Yeah, you have to be more patient.
You have to learn to, and it's hard to do. Sometimes you may have to drop.
When the player is talented, you definitely have to be a little bit patient. I was even like I really liked Caleb Johnson coming into this year. He ended up in a terrible spot, and I still kept him up until like 2 weeks ago. I finally cut him loose. I was like, it ain't gonna happen. It's time to let go. But I week 4, week 5, I was like, not doing it yet. Week 6, I'm like, not doing it yet. And, just eventually, as the season goes on, those deeper bench spots become more valuable. And then eventually he makes his way to the bottom of that ladder. And that's what he finally got to the bottom of the ladder, and I cut him loose. So we got a question from Bob Hope.
I'm reading that.
Wants to know if he should drop Bam Knight for Colston Loveland or Musgrave or running back White.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's Rashad White.
Rashad White, but he also has Pitts. But I would say I probably pick up Loveland. I've had Musgrave. I've done that when Tucker Kraft was out a week when I thought he wasn't going to play, and I picked him up. He didn't do nothing.
Did the Packers trade? Did they get a tight end? Was it T.J. Hawkins?
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't see that.
I thought I saw that late. I don't know if you got to be careful with Twitter. There's a lot of fake accounts.
Oh yeah.
But I could have sworn I saw Packers made a move for tight end. But let me just double check.
I mean, that's just like with Bam Knight, helping this guy out here too. I mean, DeMarcado, he looked pretty good last night. So this is just a committee, and then you got Trey Benson coming back soon off IR. And nobody knows what Bucky Irving's doing. I've not heard anything. So he's got White. I would probably pick up Loveland, just to talent alone.
Yeah, if you're relying on Bam Knight, though, maybe Rashad White temporarily. I don't know. If it's just a depth add at running back, then I would definitely go Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a fixture in that offense going forward.
I was real shocked today. Me and you talked. You've mentioned it many times. I was surprised that DJ Moore still in Chicago. You thought he would be traded.
I feel the same about Breece Hall with the Jets. I thought he was gone as well.
No, I didn't think that they were going to move him.
Really?
Yeah,
I
just
seen the
didn't see
Chiefs
it.
offered them a fourth, but they wouldn't take it. They wanted a third.
Yeah, that's what I read as well. The TJ Hawkinson news was fake. Sorry about bringing that up.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Yeah, I got a text message now from a guy I work with. He wants to know, let's see the question. Should I try and grab Loveland or Singletary and drop Trevor Lawrence? Jalen Hurts is my quarterback. I have him back from bye this week. And my running backs are Breece Hall and Derrick Henry. I think it's Loveland.
Who's his tight end?
His tight end is Kyle Pitts. Similar question.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. And unless that's him, is that him? No. He just got a different name. No. Let me see. He showed me his bench. His third running back is Aaron Jones, who looked pretty good this past week.
He's got AC joint sprain or something, they say.
Yeah, but I think they said he wasn't going to miss.
Oh, that's good.
Same thing.
I tell you out there, Peter, too, I like it. If they did trade Breece Hall, that Isaiah Davis looks good for the Jets.
Meanwhile, me being a Jet fan, I don't think Breece he's a good player, but I don't think he ever got back to that level from his rookie year. Like his rookie year, he looked like the next Adrian Peterson or something. He looked special, and he tore the ACL. Took him a year or two to get back. And again, you can't I don't want to bash the Bengal defense again, but the Jets played the Bengals 2 weeks ago. So let's see what they do versus this weekend.
Yeah.
But my point is, I don't think Breece has been the same player. And Isaiah Davis can pretty much do everything he does. I don't see a huge drop off between those two players where they are right now in their careers. Now, people think I'm nuts. I get bashed. I get bashed on Twitter a lot for making comments like this. And I think what happens is a player. I think if you look at an NFL player in his career, he'll have that one big year, that big pop, But were they consistent, year over year? Was there a consistency to their game? And that's what I look at, So I just think with Breece, he looked special early on. He played ACL, and I'm like, he doesn't seem like, all right, you know what? Running back is one of the easiest positions to find, I think, in the draft. I don't see it being a premium position. And you can, I don't know. That's how I feel, but I don't know. I'm, if Breece. He's going to be a free agent, and he's going to have the opportunity to go wherever he wants. The Jets aren't going to franchise him, obviously. So why not just take the draft pick? I don't know what their logic was behind that. We'll see. If they sign him.
I think that they're going to try to keep him.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. He's too good. He's still good. Just 2 weeks ago, he looked real good. They just. For some reason, they don't game plan to use him as the centerpiece of the offense. I mean, I maybe it's because Garrett Wilson has been missing games. Like I remember at what was it 3 weeks ago? I tweeted that Breece Hall going without a target is a fireable offense.
Right.
The guy can catch 60 to 80 balls, and we've seen it. 7-8 receptions for 86 yards and a touch. Like he can play that role. So I don't know if it's because of Justin Fields isn't the best decision maker, or he can't roll through his reads and decipher when dump off to the running back and when not and when to take off. I just think he has too many options like at his disposal because he's a mobile quarterback that can make things happen on his own with his legs. And then the play calling too, like that Denver Broncos New York Jets game. Oh my God, was that painful to watch on both sides? Like what are you calling for the like 3rd and 13 run the 2nd and 12 run the ball? Like what do you like? What's going like? Of course, Brees. Like of course, it's not going to be good results. Like now you put your quarterback in a 3rd and long situation. Like what is the thought process behind that? Like and then it just they're not using him right week in and week out. They do sometimes, and then sometimes they don't. They go away from it. We'll see what happens with Garrett Wilson. Is he practicing this week? He's supposed to come back, Pete.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that helps, and we there's better days going ahead, for the next 4 or 5 weeks for Brees. But that guy can still play, man. He still has a burst. He can still take one to the house. He breaks tackles. He can pass catch. He's a talented running back. He's somebody that I want to hold on to if I plan on pointing this team in the right direction. Like you said, you can replace through the draft, but I mean, and Isaiah Davis looks pretty good too, but at that point, you're just adding depth pieces and guys that can get 5 to 10 touches a game. Like they're not letting Brees get going. I feel like his best games come when he's got 20 plus touches, not necessarily carries, but touches.
Right.
Especially where they don't have a clear-cut wide receiver too. Like Josh Reynolds, is it Mason Taylor? It's what happens when a team they come across a team that takes away tight ends. Now what? Like you should be utilizing Brees Hall, but you're not. Like I don't know what they're doing over there. Sometimes they're just misusing them, and I think it's because they don't have the right personnel. So, surrounding pieces, personnel, not necessarily blaming the offensive coordinator, but I just think the offensive coordinator is afraid to call some certain plays because, Justin Fields is capable of turning the ball over and making mistakes. So
that shocks me too, because Fields and Wilson play together. They ought to have some kind of chemistry when they play in Ohio State. They ought to let them trust each other.
They were pretty. I mean, Wilson was having his usual, 90 to 100 catch season, 85, 90 catches. He was on pace for that. It's not like he was playing bad. He just got hurt. But it's just they haven't found a way to get the whole offense in sync and to let Brees Hall gain his momentum.
Yeah.
But, well, guys, we are approaching 2 hours, so it's almost 10 o'clock. I do have to be up at like 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I thought you were on vacation, Pete.
Just one day, election day. I'm in a union, so I get election day off.
Oh, nice. Nice. We could.
Yeah, that's the only way I could have pulled this off tonight. If I had to work today, I would have been in bed by 7 o'clock. So
nice. I'm going on like I didn't stop. If I stopped, there's like I would have dragged that ass down here. I'm kind of glad that I wasn't prepared for the 7 o'clock show, and I had to immediately come home and dive into data and prepare for that. And then that show ended, and we were already ready to go. So. I'm probably going to crash hard once we hang it up here. But this has been a great show, great conversation. It was good to get to know you a little bit better, Pete. Get to hear your fantasy football story. I know Joey enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
he every time I do one of these with an NFFC guy, he hangs down the bottom and listens, and it's funny. You couldn't see him, but some of his reactions when you were telling the story, he was giggling and stuff. Maybe I ought to bring you on stage for these and just mute your mic. So at least the guest can see your reactions.
I love listening to stories like that because, like I said, you all started before I did. I didn't start to 07. And what hooked me was I was always a big Brady fan. So my first pick ever in a fantasy football draft was 07, 14-team hometown league. Had no idea how deep it was. And everybody said, oh, let quarterback fall, blah, blah, blah. So my first pick ever was Frank Gore. And on the turn, I said, you know what? I said, I want Tom Brady. And then he threw 50 touchdowns that year. They didn't hook, line, and sinker on fantasy football. So that was it. I got to play now.
Did you get Randy Moss too?
I did in ESPN leagues. I done a whole bunch of them. I had Moss and Brady.
You want to hear a story about that year? I won my hometown league that year. I beat the team that had Brady and Moss. And the playoff game, the semifinal game, the Patriots played the Jets in, I don't think it was MetLife yet. I think it was still the old Giants. I can't remember if it was Giants Stadium. Anyway, that was Darrelle Revis's rookie year. And he was covering Randy Moss, and he shut him down. And it was like a snowy game. It was cold. It was in December. And this guy that I was playing, he could have started Phillip Rivers, but he stayed with Brady because, come on, Brady was, 52 touchdowns. But Brady gave him like 10 points or something, and I wound up winning in the semifinals. So I beat the team that year that had Brady and Moss when Brady threw 52 touchdowns. I think Moss had, 20 touchdowns? 20-something touchdowns?
23. I think it was 23.
It was a wild year, yeah.
Because I didn't have Moss on that team, the big team, my hometown team. But I did have. I tell you who was good that year too. And I got beat. I made it to the playoffs. But I got beat that first round. Tony Romo was pretty good in 07 too. He had a good season too. I think that's the team who beat me that I went up against. I think Tony Romo had a good 07.
He was a great. He played, but where he was, he wasn't drafted, undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
He had a nice career. Definitely.
Nice. All right, so let's wrap it up, guys.
A pleasure, man. Thank you, Joey. Nice meeting you.
You too. It was awesome. Anytime we can help each other, DMs or whatever, fine, whatever.
Appreciate you making time to come on, Pete. Like I said, it's my mission to highlight as many NFFC guys as I can. I think it's great. I want everybody to learn about these guys that play. They're all fantasy football animals. I consider them all the best players in the world, even ones who haven't made a league cash yet. You know what you're talking about. You started out pretty much the same way I did. You're out there for 25 years doing this shit. You just joined the stiff competition a little bit later than I did, and you'll get there, man. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. If you're catching it live, appreciate it. Anybody that listens afterwards, awesome too. If you're not subscribed to the Sports Affiliation, please hit the like button. If you like the show, subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button. And if you want to see Aces Up live every week, you can throw the bell. You hit the little bell. You'll get the notification when I go live. And that's pretty much it. Joey, as always, a pleasure. Pete, thank you again. We're going to get out of here.
All right. See you guys.
Go Jets.